Hello friends, this is Robert West. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. The topic of this video is, are tariffs bankrupting U.S. businesses? If so, how so? Before we start, I do want to thank all the new viewers to this YouTube channel. I really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. It doesn't cost anything. Also, feel free to comment, like, share, and let's get into this topic. So, many people think that tariffs will increase the cost of goods, U.S. goods. And that's 100% true. Because as we know, the importer, that means the U.S. company, has to pay that tariff when it lands at customs. And then they decide whether or not to pass along the extra tariff to the consumer. In many cases, the answer is yes. Sometimes they'll absorb a little bit of it, but certainly not all of it. Okay. But how does that get back to the question of how can they bankrupt U.S. businesses? Well, we'll give a little example. So recently, very recently, Canada has declined tons and tons of American beef. The American beef producers thought they had a deal with Canada to sell tons and tons of the stuff. Well, Canada decided, no, we're not going to take the beef. We're not going to take the beef from the United States because of all the things that have been going on between the United States and Canada. However, they made a new deal with Mexico. And Mexico is going to sell them $1.2 billion worth of beef. So in a second, American beef producers lost millions and millions, if not billions of dollars. And Mexico just gained billions and millions of dollars because of the U.S. trade policy instituted by one Donald Trump. That's one way. Another way, when companies manufacture outside the United States, they have fixed costs. Now, when you add tariffs to those costs, whether they're 15%, 25%, in the case of Brazil, 50%, in the case of India coming up, 50%, they're increasing the importer's cost by 50%. Let's use the highest example, by 50%. Now, if these are super high margin items, meaning they make a lot of money, they make, a 1,000,000,000% markup on these, then probably the U.S. company can absorb the tariffs. But when they're very, very, very slim margin items, there's no way in hell they can pay the tariffs, for one. Especially small companies do not have the cash flow to pay these large tariffs. And in some cases, the tariff is actually larger than the cost of making the goods. And more importantly, they cannot pass such a high cost onto the consumer. And then you heard Donald Trump saying, well, then you just have to manufacture the product here. Many companies would love to manufacture the product in the United States. The problem is it's too costly. It's just way too costly to do it. It takes a lot of capital to set that up, to set up a factory, to set up the molds and the dyes and all those things. It can take millions of dollars to do that. Whereas in another country, let's say maybe India, the infrastructure is already there. They don't have to pay to set that up. Or in China, or in Vietnam, or whatever else. So that's another way that these tariffs are harming U.S. businesses. Let me give you the third way. This is kind of the new way. A lot of countries don't like being screwed around by Trump and the United States. They don't like it. And they're not going to take it. Let's give an example of Switzerland. Switzerland now, on their products, has a 35% tariff coming into the United States. 35%. So all their products that U.S. companies have ordered to sell in the United States will have to pay an additional 35% for that product. They don't like it. So how are they going to respond? Well, Switzerland now was scheduled to purchase some F-35 fighter craft for their military. They're deciding not to purchase those planes. That will hurt the company that produces the plane. This is another way where this tariff war, this trade war, is harming these American companies. Did Donald Trump ever consider any of this stuff? No. Not one bit. He's not a thinker. He never has been a thinker. He doesn't think things through. He just kind of rolls from the hip. And this is what happens when you don't hire somebody smart to be in charge. He's harming the U.S. economy, and he's harming U.S. companies. Another example, India. India was scheduled to buy some American military hardware. They're not going to buy that military hardware now. They're thinking of purchasing their hardware from Russia. Same thing. He wants to screw around with India. They don't have to take it. Their goods don't have to necessarily be sold here. Same with Canada. It's the same with Mexico. Canada has a lot of goods that they sell to the United States, a lot of natural resources. If the U.S. wants to put all these crazy tariffs on them, they don't have to sell them to the United States either. They don't have to buy anything from us, and they don't have to sell anything to us. This is what happens when a person does not carefully think through what they're doing. This is harming American companies. Now that most of the tariffs are actually activated and in place, you're going to see the economy tank. It's already tanked with this treatment from Trump to other countries. It's already hurt tourism coming from Canada and from Western Europe. Indices indicate that we're going to lose about $30 billion tourism dollars in 2025. Where I live in Las Vegas, many tip workers, W-2 workers, they work for the casino, but they get tips. They're saying their tips are down 50% already. 50%. And mostly, they make most of their money on tips. Again, the only person that's really losing from this trade war stuff is Americans and American companies. They're just losing money. You're not going to make it up. And the only income you're getting from these tariffs are U.S. income. So you've just increased taxes tremendously on the United States and the people who purchase things in the United States. That's what this is all about. So are this tariffs, this trade war, are they going to bankrupt some American businesses? Absolutely. That is going to happen. It's happening already. It's happened already. But now that these tariffs are fully in place, for the most part, you're going to see a lot of damage from this. So when you hear Trump telling everybody how we're doing so great and he's just lying his butt off like usual. You know, he's doing great. His net worth is, I believe, tripled or even quadrupled since he became president. But the average Joe or Jane Doe, no, they're not doing great. They're being harmed by his policies. And it will continue. Do not be surprised if you see a lot of American businesses go out of business. When you have these policies, this is what happens. All right, friends, that's it for this one. I appreciate you watching. Feel free to comment, like, share. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And we'll see you in the next video.